back into another episode of the Daft on Draft podcast. I am your co-host, Corey Kennan, alongside my other co-host, Dalton Miller. We are 3 weeks out from the Combine, a little bit of a dead period between the All-Star break and the Combine here, get a little 3-week break. But today, we're going to talk about some NFL news because there have just been trade rumblings after trade rumblings and demands and all in between that have happened over the past couple days here. So we got to talk about it, what it can mean for the NFL draft, what it can mean for those teams, and then kind of, how that would shake up the landscape. But before that happens, Dalton, how are you?
Oh, I'm fantastic. Myles Garrett requested a trade. Myles Garrett is from Arlington, Texas. He is a Texas legend. Seeing his high school photos, and he went to Arlington Martin. He went to a pretty big school. Seeing him compared to normal high school aged human beings is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yes.
And so the trade stuff has been really fun. I posted a complete hypothetical. I posted a complete hypothetical about if you were to trade for Myles Garrett and you trade Micah Parsons and you end up with a net positive in draft capital because Micah has control on his contract for a couple more years at a low cost relative to his production, and he is much younger than Myles Garrett, would you do it? And I was surprised to see so much pushback from Cowboys fans because they do a lot of talking during the season about how annoying Micah Parsons is because he has a podcast. And so I thought that maybe they would be ready to move on and get some assets, get the Texas kid. But no, they wanted to actually keep Micah Parsons. And I think a lot of it has to do with Luka Doncic getting traded and them seeing, oh, this could be like real. Like this isn't, these aren't hypothetical situations. Like our best players could get traded. And then it gets into your system. And it's like, okay, well, Micah Parsons is probably worth keeping around for the next decade. Yeah, he probably is.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I've had a lot of fun with it, this Myles Garrett trade stuff.
He's not going anywhere, right? Like just
financially. I mean, the Browns, I think they can get back to some sort of competitive nature with just decent quarterback play. I think they're going to trade him. Like,
really?
I do, as much as, if they do, though, it's a sign that, like, they're tearing it down in 2020, 2025. Like, no shot in 2025. Well, because they're going to have to eat a $16 million penalty this year.
They have a really difficult situation because they're paying buku money to a quarterback that's not going to play football for them.
Yeah. And they could restructure that, and they're probably going to have to.
Well, they already did restructure it.
It hasn't been like officially on the books yet, like it over the cap or anything like that. I think they have, but like nothing's been reported or like officially on the books. I deep in my heart, I want to say no, they're not going to trade him because it makes no financial sense. Two, like, why would you trade Myles Garrett even if he asked for it?
Mm-hmm.
But I genuinely don't think
I think part of it, like,
for more money. I genuinely think he wants to go win somewhere.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely,
and that's hard. And how? And at what point do you just like do right by?
Well, that's the difference between
the face of your franchise for the last 8 years.
That's the difference between the NBA and the NFL.
Yeah,
the NBA, that's what they do. The NFL, that's what happens when a guy is 34.
Yeah.
That's the D-Ware trade to Denver. Like, that's when this stuff happens. It's not at 29 in their primes. Because at the end of the day, the NFL still first and foremost is a business of parity, a business of competition, and they do not want to get rid of the biggest name in their franchise ever.
Yeah.
Teams don't
want to I agree with that. So, like, there's so much within me that wants to say no, they're not going to trade him. One, because it would be a complete admission that, like, nope. We're just done for the year. We're shutting it down. But like at the end of the day, if you trade Myles Garrett, like good luck getting David Njoku to buy in. Good luck getting Denzel Ward to buy in. Good luck getting like good luck getting Jerry Jeudy to buy back in after you just got him to buy in a Pro Bowl season. Like, good luck getting any of those guys to want to care about playing football for your team. Like, yeah, it's a rough landscape. So, there is a part of me that thinks that maybe they think they can go out and buy a quarterback and compete this year somehow. We'll talk about one a little bit later. Maybe they think that's a possibility.
I'm looking at their financial situation.
No, they can make it. They can make it work. They for sure can make it work. Yeah. So
I mean, you can pretty much make anything work in the NFL financially if you really, really want to. But they are $38 million in the hole right now. Second worst in the NFL heading into next year. So tough when everybody else, not everybody else, but a lot of teams have money to spend on that guy.
Yeah, but again, like the Deshaun Watson restructure that's going to happen is going to clear 43 and a half right there, 44 and a half. So that puts you at 14
for this year.
In the positive, 14 in the positive, and then you got some other room to wiggle around here. So it's definitely possible. What's Matthew Stafford's contract? What's his base?
I am not sure.
Let me look it up. Let me pull that up. His base in 2025 is only $23 million. So if the Browns traded for him, they would only take on $23 million, which is pretty doable. That's pretty doable. Yeah, but we'll see. But I guess that's the place to go next then, is right? Talking about Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, and listen, I'm just going to bring this up immediately. Package him and Kupp together and send them to Las Vegas. Both of them right there, because they don't have any weapons. Jacoby Myers. I had somebody legitimately the other day, I was talking about getting Las Vegas weapons, and this guy was like, yeah, it's really not that bad of a situation. We have Jacoby Myers. I'm like,
dog, you're talking about Jacoby Myers as
you're talking about Jacoby Myers as your best receiver. Like, listen, Brock Bowers is awesome. All right, Brock Bowers is awesome. But that's one man, and he's a tight end.
Mm-hmm.
You need weapons on the outside. And listen, Cooper Kupp is not what Cooper Kupp was. We saw that this year. He's always been injury prone. If you can package those two together, they already have the rapport together, and then you draft Ashton JT like we were talking about with the 6th pick in the NFL draft.
Even add another receiver in like Luther Burden or Ted McMillan.
I would say best of both worlds. You would trade down and get one of those three players. And I think that's, we're going to talk about at the very end of this episode or trades. I think Las Vegas trading down a couple of picks would be perfect for them because they need help on that roster. And they could still get a very good weapon, potentially anywhere from 10 to 15 in the NFL draft as well. Even if it's a guy like Emeka Egbuka. And even if they move down a little bit lower with a Matthew Golden. There are options to where day one, those guys are probably your best weapon outside of Brock Bowers.
Yeah. My question with Egbuka and Golden, though, pairing them with Jacoby Myers and Cooper Kupp is okay, but which one of your not only but but which one of these guys is your explosive playmaker? Because I'm not sure any of those guys. I mean, Brock Bowers is still your most explosive wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, that's you can find a 4-3 guy in free agency that's cheap.
Probably could.
There's a Marcus Valdez-Scantling out there who can run downfield really fast. Yeah. They might not be good at football, but they can play that role. And I mean, there's some fast guys later in the draft too. You can look at a guy even later like Ty Felton. You can look at a Isaiah Bond if you really want to, test your luck. But yeah, there's options. But is there anywhere else that you're looking at that could really use somebody like Matthew Stafford?
I mean, Tennessee, if they're like really like, no, we're not passing on Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter at 1. Like if we are taking a generational talent at 1, as their GM said that we talked about like last week. I think Tennessee, if they want to, I mean, Tennessee's invested a lot in their offensive line. They don't have any wide receiver talent, so like they would need to figure something out there. But they've invested a ton of first-round picks in their offensive line. That might be a fit for Matthew Stafford. And then if they are truly dead set on, we are not going to draft a quarterback number 1, and we are going to take a more immediate playmaker at the top of the board rather than reaching on positional value at quarterback. Tennessee makes a lot of sense to me in that regard. Pittsburgh, what the heck are they going to do with their quarterback situation, man? Like,
they're talking about extending Russell Wilson. They're talking about bringing Justin Fields back. It's Mike Tomlin, so he just positive Pat all the time. I mean, that would be a fantastic fit. I mean, when you think about Pittsburgh and the culture there, the toughness. I mean, God, Matthew Stafford is the epitome of toughness at the quarterback position. So I think it would be a really cool fit. And just having the quarterbacks in that division with Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, and Matthew Stafford.
And whoever's starting for the Browns.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I think one more. I like the fit from a talent perspective around him. And again, a pretty decent offensive line is the Giants. Yeah. Too.
Yeah.
I think the Giants could be a decent fit for Matthew Stafford too. But that's one of the ones where like, I'd be shocked if it happens because like, are the Rams going to re-sign Jimmy G, or are the Rams going to like what other plan?
I don't know what the Rams do at quarterback. That's what's really interesting to me is I don't know what the options are behind him. Are they going to draft a guy? If they get a little capital, are they going to make a move up? That defense is really good. It's really young. Are they going to move up and take a shot on Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders?
Yeah.
Like, I think at the end of the day, how far do those guys realistically fall? Because I don't think it's super far, but it probably should be.
It should be.
If we're talking about where those guys should be drafted, the back end of the first is perfect for a guy like Shedeur.
Yeah. I wouldn't put it past this class to turn into a 2013 class where everybody's like, well, everybody needs quarterbacks, so Geno Smith or EJ Manuel get pushed up the board, and they didn't.
Yeah.
And they didn't.
One more fit just because I think it would be hilarious. The 49ers and the 49ers trade.
The division, yeah.
I
saw that and I thought about it, but.
And the 49ers trade Mr. Irrelevant. Oh, well, I can't even think of his name right now.
Brock Purdy.
Yeah. Because, I mean, what are you going to do with Brock? Are you going to pay him $60 million?
I hope not.
These are the conversations that we're getting to. Is paying Brock Purdy $60 million.
Yeah.
So, Kupp, any non-partner with.
I really struggle. You need an unbelievable playmaker that would know how. Like, I think New England makes a ton of sense because they've got a ton of money. They've got a young quarterback, and they have no wide receiver depth.
Yeah.
So New England, to me, is the team that screams like they might go after Cooper Kupp. Because I think they also have two wide receivers who kind of play pretty, like have a similar skill set to Cooper Kupp in Jalen Polk and Javon Baker, and they both sucked last year and need to grow up. So I think that could be a decent fit.
What about Minnesota? Jordan Addison, speedy guy, plays on the outside. one of the best, if not the very best wide receiver in the NFL in Justin Jefferson. And then you add Cooper Kupp into the slot, and Cooper Kupp also helps you in the run game because he will absolutely block his ass off as well.
So Minnesota does, because, well, what's Minnesota's money situation? My only thing would be
55. They're like 5th or 6th in cap space.
My only question would be, Jalen Naylor played in the slot for them pretty well last year and did a lot of stuff for him. So, like, and Jalen Naylor's on a day 3 rookie contract. Is what you're going to get out of Kupp going to be significantly more valuable than that for the cost?
That's the problem. Is I don't know what you're getting out of Kupp at this point for anybody, and so
and like I think the Chargers could be, because if the Rams said they'd work around his family, and if they don't want to move, like, the Chargers could be a good fit. But like then you have to think about, like, well, excuse me, how do you get him and Ladd on the field together? You know, like there's some questions there. So honestly, I think it's the Patriots that really make a ton of sense to me. Maybe the Packers. The Packers have some explosive playmakers on the outside, but none of them can stay healthy, and they don't have like Tucker Kraft is that, like, over the middle, very sturdy target. So the Packers could be a fit too, I think. What do you think about Denver? Like, Denver could be like a sneaky good fit.
Dude, they started playing Mims a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. Towards the end of the year, and I think that they really like him. So I don't know.
Jacksonville. Pair him with Brian Thomas Jr. I like that a lot. Because Gabe Davis is Davis, and I think Christian Kirk is cuttable because, like, his guaranteed money's up. So, like, Jacksonville with Brian Thomas,
maybe,
and draft another rookie this year too. Then, like, day 2, add to that.
Yeah. Load. I mean, you're only going to have to give up a day 3 pick for Kupp.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Round 1 trades in the NFL draft that we would like to see. Ooh. I have one that I would really like to see.
Okay.
It's a guy who has always been aggressive in the NFL draft. It is Sean Payton moving up for Ashton Jeanty. That's the one I want to see. I think there is no better fit for Jeanty. First of all,
I would agree.
Mountain West to Mountain West area type deal. And then you also have somebody who can take a really big load off of Bo Nix, giving him an option to check the ball down to as a very good pass catcher out of the backfield, as a very good pass protector, and then also an explosive playmaker on the ground. And Sean Payton was very clear that they need a guy, if not multiple guys, in that backfield. I do also think that mix of him and Audrey Estime could be a pretty good overall duo. And young and inexpensive. Well, not necessarily inexpensive, because drafting a first-round running back is expensive. But I would love to see that move.
How high do you think they'd have to get up, and like what kind of trade partner? Like, I think I'm looking at like Arizona at 16, and Monty Austin-Ford has traded in like every single draft he's done. Do you think you got to get higher than 16? Do you think maybe 11. Like 11 San Fran? Do you think San Fran wants to add an elite player when they've got the chance though? And
no, I think Dallas. I think Dallas wants him. You would need to jump Dallas.
So you think Dallas wants him?
I would very much believe that they would be very interested in him. Yes.
Makes sense after the Jonathan Brooks stuff last year. I think New Orleans is a team that might look to trade down and just stack up as many assets as they can, because they got to tear that thing all the way down.
Yeah, I mean, New Orleans needs to tear it down to the studs. So getting as many rookies, what they really need to do is what the Rams did and just build their roster off of UDFA guys and rookie contract guys and just hope that they can survive.
Yeah, now, somehow just hope that they're coaching with Kellen Moore and whatever staff he built.
Yeah, somehow the Rams ended up coming out on top of that because they drafted their ass off and found a couple of UDFA guys that ended up being dudes. But that's what the Saints need to do to turn that roster around. So the Saints could very well and probably should trade down as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. Let me think here. Another round one trade that I would like to see. I'm not going to talk about quarterbacks. I don't want to talk about quarterbacks here.
I don't know if he'll have to move up for him. I don't think he will have to move up for him. But Mike McDonald moving up a couple of spots to make sure that he gets Nick Emanwari. Just because there's no way that man is watching his tape and isn't seeing Kyle Hamilton. Yeah. There's just no way.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if like Green Bay and just the size of edge rushers that they historically draft, like, and their desperate need for edge rushers, like, would Green Bay sell it all for Shamar Stewart? Like, I think they're going to be.
I've been told specifically they will not target Shamar Stewart.
Really?
He's too big.
Too big.
They would look at him as.
I mean, they drafted Lucas Van Ness.
He was 270.
It's 10 pounds lighter. It's not that.
Yeah, I guess Green Bay's really weird with their size threshold stuff. On the offensive line, on the defensive line, they're really weird about it. So,
I have one. I actually have one.
All right.
So Chris Godwin just tore his ACL. Chris Godwin's contract is kind of getting there. Chris Godwin's done a lot of really good stuff in a lot of variety of Z slot looks. Like if Tampa Bay tried to come up and find a way to get Luther Burton.
See, I think it would be even more exciting for them to, Egbuka.
But I know they need a corner bad.
Yeah, and Godwin has more juice had more juice than Egbuka. The funny thing about Godwin is, even though he ran really well, I never felt like he played very fast. You know what I mean? He always just kind of seemed more controlled, kind of like Egbuka does a lot of the times. Similar-ish builds as well. And the ability to play inside, outside, I think is something that it just makes a whole lot of sense. But you're right. They really need a corner.
Yeah. The other one I would shout out, but it's not going to happen because the Bengals are notorious for being unaggressive and just like picking where they lie. But Cincinnati coming up for Mason Graham, finding a way to come up into the top 7 for Mason Graham.
Yeah.
Because their interior defensive line is awful. And they're a competitive football team. They are a competitive football team. So if they could come up or even come up for Tyler Warren, Cincinnati coming up for Tyler Warren would be a fun one too. But I think if there was a chance to be aggressive and capitalize, it would be this year for Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that.
I think that's the only one on the board that's like staring me in the face.
The one other one that I would like to bring up is oh crap, I had it and then I lost it. It was Tampa Bay moving up into the back end of round 1 potentially. And getting Xavier Watts.
See, that's interesting.
I don't know.
Need to move into the first round.
I don't know. I don't know how the NFL is going to look at Xavier Watts. But I adore him. And so, like, for me, pairing him and Antoine Winfield Jr. is my favorite college prospect of all time. So pairing those two together, for me, as somebody who loves safety play, I will not miss a snap of Tampa Bay defense next year and for the next couple of years if they somehow manage to get Xavier Watts and him.
Yeah. I think I could probably come up with like a fun trade scenario for the Browns coming up from 33 maybe to like 24 with Minnesota, who has no picks in this draft.
Yeah. And drafting
for like Armand Membo or something like that could be
fun.
as well. Because you got to get in front of, Los Angeles needs a tackle. Baltimore needs a tackle. Detroit needs a tackle. Washington needs a tackle. So
Kansas City needs a tackle.
So I think getting to 24 where Minnesota picks is probably, if you really want your choice of a tackle that would be left on the board, I think that's probably the spot to get to as well.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I don't disagree. That's all I got for that and for today, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. So I am gonna drink my feelings away this weekend about Myles Garrett, and we'll see what happens with Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp.
Try not to drink too much. Remember, you're cutting.
I am cutting. Yeah, I am.
Empty calories. Tomorrow we will do mailbag.
Absolutely.
And then the next day, if we are able to get enough names, here's the thing. We decided to do running backs first, guys. And the problem with that is that
there's so many good
every single running back you watch is awesome. And so it's like
coming up. Did you see Jordan Reed tweet out that he has 33 draftable grades on running backs this class?
Well, I can tell you I've watched 24 so far, and they all have draftable grades. So not surprising. Not surprising. I had a couple people tell me, you have got to watch. It's actually 23 draftable grades. I have one undraftable grade right now. You've got to watch Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt. He played one game this year. He's a 6-year guy.
He's old, yeah.
Wasn't able to play because of eligibility issues. And I turned on his tape, and he's freaking awesome.
He is.
I don't care that I wouldn't care if he's 28 because I don't care about running back's age because I only expect one contract out of him.
Yeah. Yeah, he was by far perhaps the most explosive player at the Shrine Bowl. So
that makes sense watching his tape.
Yeah.
How did he catch the ball at Shrine?
Pretty well.
Did he? Because he is like no receiving.
Yeah.
To speak of at New Mexico or at Arizona. He only played one game for Arizona, but
Alabama A&M, I think is where he was at before.
Yeah, he had a little bit. He had a little bit of receiving production at Alabama A&M, but it was like 18 catches in a season. Like it still wasn't that much. But at New Mexico, all he did was pass protect, and that dude loves to throw his body around, and I love that.
Yeah.
So, fun player. Not my top 10, but a good player.
Yeah. I've watched probably 7 or 8 so far, and I'm having a lot of fun with this class. So I'm gonna burn through them here. Should be a lot of fun to get into that. But until we do, we'll be back with a mailbag tomorrow. We'll probably shoot out some inquiries. We might pull some old mailbag questions as well that we've had. So, but until next time, I'm Corey. That's Dalton, and this has been the Daft on Draft podcast.
Welcome.